Ricky Burns is taking on Anthony Crolla this October. Now, I understand that the bout will take place in Manchester, Crolla's hometown, and at £135, the lightweight limit which Anthony Crolla has been campaigning at. Ricky Burns, as you guys will know, has been fighting up at the £140 division of late. So, yeah, potentially you could say that Crolla's got some of his own way in negotiations here, having the fight at £135 and having the fight in Manchester. From a Ricky Burns perspective, I always kind of thought he never really made into a good light welterweight. Don't get me wrong, I know he went on to win a world title in that division, but I mean, physically, he never looked the same for me at 140 as he did at 135. At 135, he looked a more athletic, in condition Ricky Burns. Even though he's got older, at £140, he still seems to carry a bit of extra fat on him at that weight. And I actually think Ricky Burns may be better at 135, although I'm sure getting back down to that weight, having got a bit older and having been campaigning at 140, may hurt him and therefore could be a relevant part of this fight. I guess this is a classic Crossroads fight. The winner of this fight still has the potential to earn some pretty substantial paydays in their career, and I'm sure the winner of this fight will probably go on to fight for another version of the world title. As for the loser of the fight, you know, both of them have had a few losses on their record in the last few years. The loser of this fight, you wonder really whether there's a future left for them. Of course, both guys have big names, but this is a Crossroads fight. You know, if Ricky Burns loses, I suspect he'll be used as ammunition against a guy like Josh Taylor. If Anthony Crolla loses, you know, he's got to consider whether he wants to step down to British title level and fight in that sort of live domestic mix. I don't know. But it's a fight between two guys who have been hyped extensively by Sky Sports. It's a hot fight between two guys who have headlined a lot of Sky bills and had some good publicity off the back of that. And really, I would say it's a fight between two of British boxers' biggest overachievers. You know, you look at these guys, you look at their attributes, you look at their pedigree. Both of them have really overachieved with the heights that they've hit in the sport compared to what you would imagine they would hit if you just sat and watched a few minutes of them fighting. You'd have to throw Tony Bellew into the mix there as well, but realistically, these are two guys who've done very well out of boxing. I know Ricky Burns has had his financial problems, but I mean, he's done very well in terms of getting his profile to where it is today, very well in terms of winning the titles that he's won and being involved in the fights that he's been involved with, and I suspect that you know, that will continue going into this fight. I suspect it will be a big payday for both. In terms of how the fight will match up stylistically, Ricky Burns, I would assume, will have a substantial advantage in terms of length, reach, range, and he is going to be doing, or taking on the role, if you like, I would assume, of the classic boxer, trying to throw long 1-2s, trying to keep distance, trying to keep Crolla at range, trying to pick the cleaner outside work. Anthony Crolla, well, he's a Joe Gallagher fighter. I presume he's going to be looking to do what he did in the Barroso fight. Of high guard, come forward, take a lot of Burns' punches on the gloves, and then look to get on the inside, look to rip to the body, look to fight like a presser fighter. Both of these guys, to be fair to them, are durable operators. Ricky Burns is very durable indeed. Anthony Crolla, you know, he's shown durability against the likes of Jorge Linares and Barroso. This is a fight that will probably go the distance, and it could be a stamina sapping fight because Burns is going to be looking to be on his bike and you know, keep range and keep distance, whereas Crolla's going to be relentlessly coming forward and you know, operating with that high output, high guard style of a presser fighter. I guess Crolla and Gallagher will be looking at the Ricky Burns-Kirill Relic fight. Burns was the winner in that fight, but it was a highly controversial fight, and even the most ardent Ricky Burns fan would have to admit that Kirill Relic was able to take multiple rounds off Ricky Burns. And Kirill Relic's style and approach in that fight, the way he came forward, the way he pressured, I know he had Ricky Hatton in his corner, it was Hatton-esque, and that sort of approach really did seem to my eye and to most boxing fans who were watching to give Ricky Burns a lot of trouble. So I suspect that Anthony Crolla will be looking to that as an example with Joe Gallagher in his corner and hoping to get success in a similar fashion. Ricky Burns will be taking confidence from the fact that he's fighting a guy coming off 2 back-to-back losses from the weight class below, who, if we're honest, was soundly outboxed by Jorge Linares. Whether Ricky Burns has the boxing skills and the explosiveness and the hand speed and the combinations and the freshness of Jorge Linares. At this stage of his career, I highly doubt that's the case. But regardless, it makes for at least an interesting clash with a kind of loser goes home, winner goes on to get involved in a big fight type of mentality about it. I would suspect, it's a very hard fight actually, I would suspect that the bookies will have this relatively even in terms of the betting line. I would suspect that Ricky Burns may start as a slight favourite. I haven't seen any lines on this. I would suspect he may be a very slight favourite based on the fact that he's a 3-division world title, he's the bigger man, etc. Crolla is not without a shout on this. In fact, whilst I suspect Ricky Burns may be a slight favourite in this fight, I would possibly lean towards Anthony Crolla. Crolla was a very, very improving boxer for me. He was coming up through the ranks, he was overperforming, his performances were getting better and better, and he looked like a guy who had a lot of momentum in his career. He ran into a very, very good elite world-class fighter for my money in Jorge Linares, and he found his level. But up till that point, Crolla was looking pretty good and looking like his career was on the right path. Ricky Burns, on the other hand, was kind of scraping through fights with Kirill Relic, and I know he took a few losses as well along the way. And I just wonder whether Anthony Crolla is the fresher guy and has the more momentum coming into this fight. I'm not sure, but I suspect that may well be the case. So wouldn't surprise me if Ricky Burns starts a slight favourite. I would give a slight lean to Anthony Crolla. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Leave your comments in the section below. Who are you picking in this matchup? Who do you think will win? How do you think the fight will break down stylistically? Is it an interesting fight? Is it you know, two washed up has-beens? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. As always, thanks for tuning in.